Okay, thank you. Good evening, councillors. Welcome to Northampton Borough Council's Overview and Scrutiny Committee for today. First item on the agenda are apologies. I've received apologies from Councillor Ashraf and Councillor Meredith. Any other apologies? I think everybody else is present actually, apart from Councillor Ansell, who will be joining us later. He's having some technology issues this evening. Item 2 on the agenda are the minutes of the meeting that we held 13th of July. Do you all agree those are a true record of the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Item 3, deputations and public addresses. I believe there aren't any declarations of public addresses this evening. Is that correct, Tracy?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any declarations of interest?
No.
Councillor Smith?
Just regarding the housing item that's coming up later, I'm a member of MPH board.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Okay then, item 5, which is the monitoring of accepted recommendations. So I believe Marion Louise, you're going to present this report. I know Councillor King couldn't be with us this evening because of illness.
That's right, Councillor Lane. Councillor King couldn't attend. It's just me. Louise isn't here this evening either, if that's okay. So as we've done in the formats before when we've presented updates, we've put the updates in red so they can be seen. So starting with the first one, we detailed an exciting opportunity with the University of Northampton, who are developing a business case to establish on the University of Northampton's premises the consultation with regard to a range of representatives to develop a business case to establish a community designed to enable active ageing. Now, this is something that's been developed actually through our involvement in the Dementia Action Alliance, so quite an exciting opportunity. So that's the first one. And then the other updates I really wanted to draw your attention to. I know last time when we updated, a number of councillors raised concerns about the fact that the training hadn't been undertaken, that had been one of the recommendations. Whilst we made a good start training the champions, it hadn't been rolled out to all frontline staff. So just an update that in June, we did roll it out to all staff. We managed to find some online training. So even though the Alzheimer's Society are not currently delivering face-to-face training, we have delivered now online training, and we're monitoring the numbers of staff that take that up. And then the other updates really they wanted to, I think that's it actually. I think they were the main updates because in the whole, most of the other actions have progressed. So I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, just one, which I'll come with Catherine in a moment because I know it was her, she chaired this one. But how long is that likely to take, that study with the University of Northampton?
Well, it's just started, the consultation's just started and it's live at the moment. I don't know if you got with your pack a copy of the consultation. If you didn't, I'll make sure that gets shared. Apologies, I couldn't see it on the agenda. I know we sent it, we sent the consultation documents.
Okay, thank you. If you could, that'd be helpful. Catherine, yeah, did you want to ask a question?
Thanks very much. Marion, what does that actually mean? A consultation is being carried out with representatives of a range of health, social care and housing organisations. So once the consultation is over, what's the next step after that?
The next step is to develop the business case to establish the community. So the consultation is to understand, I mean, to be honest, through the networks that we've already got, we have established the need, but this is just wider consultation in terms of what that might look like. So the next steps after that will then develop the business case further with that funding to see if we can enable that to happen.
And will we be able to use premises in the university campus to hold whatever it is we're going to do next?
Yes, that's the plan. It would be sited at the university campus.
So we'd be inviting people and members of the public and residents to come and join us and help people cope with the aging process, with sort of diet and exercise, and that is that what it's aimed at?
Yes, that's the plan. The consultation will inform more, but currently that's the plan.
Okay. Any more questions? No? Okay then. Thank you for that, Marion. So if we move on to the next one, which is the culture and tourism one, I know this has probably got a few things with it around the museum. But I noticed a virtual tour will be available soon.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, there's a number of updates and exciting opportunities with regards to the museum. Because we can't hold Heritage Weekend this year, the plan is that we'll do a virtual tour as part of Heritage Weekend, and there's quite a lot of plans in terms of promoting the museum prior to its actual opening at the end of the year. There's quite a few updates in this. So although some things did pause or halt due to COVID-19, the majority of the actions are now progressing ahead. With regards to the Britain's Best Surprise, we've allocated funding to further advance the activities in that area. The Love Northampton website is now populated and being user tested. And the Northamptonshire Footwear Offer has its own section now on the Britain's Best Surprise website. So lots of those actions are really progressing. There's a couple, one which is the Green Badge qualification, that hasn't progressed, unfortunately. We did speak to the bid, and we have spoke to others about progressing that. But it has been now moved forward to be taken as part of the unitary plans. So that one will still go ahead, but as part of unitary. And then the other important update I wanted to draw your attention to was the development of the cultural, the funding that we got from Arts England. So we are now able to progress advertising for a director to bring that forward, and that's the development of a cultural compact. If you remember, that was one of the recommendations. So that's now progressing, and we're hoping to advertise that in September. We're just consulting with the other members of the cultural compact, so the university, NN, and so on, just to make sure that they're happy with the job description and person spec that we've put together. And that person will be working with us over the next 5 to 6 months to develop the cultural compact. So I don't know if there's any other questions anyone might have around the update. Sorry, I've rushed through that a bit, but there were quite a few in there.
The report's been circulated before the meeting anyway, so people have had the opportunity to read it. Okay. Any questions? Is it Councillor Smith?
Thank you. I think last time Councillor Duffy just raised a point about the blue plaques that I thought was quite important. And there is sort of some good information in here, but one of the points was making sure that it's reasonably gender balanced and that we've looked at including the sort of the women who are involved. I note that there's possibly there's an issue potentially with Mary Bouverie, so I'm just wondering if that doesn't go ahead if we're linked in. And the other was a really important point which might link in about just making sure that we're aware of the full histories of anybody we do a blue plaque on, and that we avoid referencing anybody that may have elements of their history that we're not keen to celebrate. And I'm just wondering if that's still in mind. Obviously it needs to go to public consultation, but I think it's important to bear that in mind, and I just want to check that we still are.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Peter Bagley actually updated me this morning that the plan is that Mary Bouverie is still to go ahead. So we will have a woman, and that research has been undertaken into the background to make sure that there are no embarrassments.
Good, thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Marion. If we could have a further update, I think, on those two at our January meeting, and hopefully by that time, a lot of those final points will be cemented and we can put these reports to bed, as it were. But lovely. Thank you very much for your time.
Of course, thank you.
Okay then, so item 6 is a performance management scrutiny update. And we asked for 2 items we looked at here. One was on the percentage of major planning applications determined within 13 weeks of agreed extension, and percentage of minor planning applications determined within 8 weeks of agreed extension. So I don't know if everybody's had the updated report that came out today, but Tracy's showing it on the screen. But I'm going to hand over to Peter, who's going to present this report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Lane. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you about this. Planning performance, it's very important. The government still is very keen to see planning applications turned around in a timely manner, both in terms of the expectation of the applicant, but also in terms of the people who are consulted on it and want certainty about what's happening in their community. So the NI targets are fairly long in the tooth now, but they're still valid. The background to majors is we've got two types of major applications. We have the major majors and the small majors, but that's planning. Major majors, 200 dwellings or more, 4 hectare, 10,000 square meters in area. Smaller majors, 10 plus dwellings, 0.5 a hectare and 1,000 square meters in area. The expectation is that these are determined within 13 weeks, 16 if there's an environmental statement. But the government doesn't expect us to do 100% of those. The target is actually 65%. So there is inherently in there a recognition that these are the really big schemes. They're the Harding Stone schemes, they're the sustainable urban extension schemes, and they are potentially going to take longer to deal with it. And so the government at the moment allows us also to negotiate extensions of time with the applicant, where we can say we haven't managed to deal with it in time, but if we both agree it and we have a target date, then it still counts as being in time once it's determined. So these are the complex items. They really are the big schemes, which have got infrastructure elements in them. They've got community, looking at school provision as well, looking at them making Section 106 contributions and SIL contributions. So they are the ones that are going to take a longer period of time. They're also mostly committee items, which again delays it because our committee usually only meets once a month. And so they're going to take longer, and they may also need a Section 106 agreement after they've been to committee. And because the clock doesn't stop ticking until we issue the decision notice, that is after a Section 106 agreement is signed, not after the committee meeting, which may have approved in principle. So there is that delay when we're just going through the details of the agreements and ensuring that they reflect what has gone to committee. And these schemes, they often get amended. They rarely stay the same as when they first submitted. And that's the value that the planning service adds, because we seek to improvements which make better places and better contributions and better impacts. So in terms of performance, with the extensions of time, we have delivered 100% performance over the last 2 years, which is, as I've said, is well in excess of the government target. Looking at the minor applications, they're 1 to 9 dwellings, they're smaller sites, 0.5 of a hectare, less than 1,000 square meters. The target there is 8 weeks. The government expects that we do 75% of those within time. So again, there's still the expectation that even the smaller stuff can raise issues which are going to take longer to resolve. We can do extensions of time. Our performance there was 100% in 18-19 and 98.7% in 19-20. They can result in amendments. This is why we need the extensions of time to do that, and sometimes we even get delays on consultee comments. And occasionally, we have had this, we get an applicant who refuses to agree an extension of time, and so they want to see us go out of time on it. Various reasons. Sometimes they might want to be able to appeal it if it drags on too long, or sometimes they're just not willing to agree something with us. But our performance is still extremely good and well in excess of what's required under the government targets. So I hope that's been some helpful background, and I'm happy to take any questions on these.
That's been very useful. Thank you, Peter. Are there any questions to Peter on that report? I think it answered a lot of the questions we had at our last meeting. No. Okay.
Councillor
Roberts.
Roberts.
That, Peter.
Sorry, Councillor Lane, Councillor Roberts was indicating.
Sorry. Okay, Councillor Roberts.
No problem, thank you. And thank you for that, Peter. I just want to understand a little bit more around extensions of time and whether we've got details, or you can provide details of how many times we request an extension of time and what the sort of average number of cases that are actually dealt with within the number of weeks that are stipulated, or whether we always request an extension of time. So I appreciate that your performance will, because you're allowed an extension of time, that will show performance, but you know, how many do we actually request that extension on?
On the majors, it's about 80%, because they are the more complex applications. On the minors, it's less than that. I think between 30 and 40% at the most.
And can we request more than one extension? Is it that a continual extension request? Yeah,
we can do, I mean that's a measure of the relationship we have with the majority of applicants, is that if we know we're making good progress on it, it's not in anybody's interest to stop the clock, because to do that we'd have to review something, and that would just result in a lot more work by everybody, because it would result in another application coming in. So the majority of agents and developers are quite happy to agree extensions of times, but as I say, we do always try and give a realistic target. And when we're looking at majors, for example, we'll always tie it in with, well, we're aiming for the committee in September. So we would then agree an extension time to a couple of weeks after that to allow us time to do the 106 and then get it off the books. But the whole approach we have with any application is that it's not wait until the target date and then determine it. It's determine it and get it off our tables as soon as we can, so that we've got capacity to deal with the other applications that are coming behind them.
Okay, and just very finally there, on once you've requested those extensions of time, do you publicise that to anybody as part from the developer or the applicant themselves? Do you publicise that to the residents who would be concerned about the timeframes that are in place and how long it will be determined?
Yeah, we changed the target date on the MasterGov system that's accessible to the public. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Point out, people, this has to be agreed with developers and the applicant as well, isn't it? We can't just arbitrarily give extensions. They have to be in agreement with us.
That's right.
Okay, lovely. Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much for that report then, Peter. Okay, then item 7 is to receive an update from the chairs of the scrutiny panels or the working groups. So the first one, Councillor Walker, is the knife working group. How's that progressing? I think you're nearly done, aren't you? Oh, I think Councillor Walker, you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. That's it, is it?
Yeah.
I think I'm unmuted.
That's right, you are.
Now. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Chair. We've got one more meeting left of this. It's been very good, very interesting. It's in October is the last meeting, and then we'll take it to Cabinet. So yeah, it's been very interesting. We'll wait to the last meeting in October. Thank you.
Okay, good. And then the report will come to us at our November meeting to be approved by our panel. Good. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
I know Councillor Meredith isn't here for the sorry. Yeah, the food poverty one. But the reports in the pack. Councillor Russell, did you want to speak on the food poverty? No.
We've been able to
Okay.
keep up with the meetings, and I think we've had quite a good attendance on them. Councillor Meredith has been chairing the meetings mostly. There are 2 co-optees onto the scrutiny panel, and we're looking to add a piece of evidence possibly at a later stage. I think Councillor Roberts also has quite a strong interest in this from another point of view. I don't know if she'd like to talk about that.
I have a strong interest in it because of sitting on it, and it's a subject that's really passionate to me. Are we talking about the points I made in respect of COVID, Catherine? Sorry, last time, or the food poverty element?
The food poverty side of things, you had some very interesting statistics from the National Union of Teachers, is it, or National Union of Schools Education?
Yeah, they're all presented as part of the report, aren't they? So we've got the numbers that we've got from Northampton itself are significantly higher, and particularly in my area. But they're all of those reports form part of the report that Tracy or the committee will put together. My feelings around how the panel's gone is that we've gathered some significant evidence. We've gathered really, really good evidence, and we've scrutinised, I believe, well on that topic. One of the points I did raise, Councillor Lane, which will be in the report, obviously, and detailed more, is that maybe we've only just scratched the surface, and actually maybe this is a topic that really does need to be revisited and should be an item that comes before the panel again. So we've been interrupted, obviously, by a pandemic. Food poverty isn't a pandemic; it's a phenomenon, obviously, that's there. But we really do need to consider whether we need to keep this subject alive immediately, rather than revisit it in 6 or 12 months' time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is... Sorry, Councillor Russell.
Sorry, I absolutely agree with that, and I hope that we can maintain it as an ongoing topic, because I think by March next year, especially if we have a second wave of the pandemic, we're going to see some very significant changes in the way that people are able to access food, the way children are being fed, and certainly the way poverty is being measured in Northampton. Thank you.
Absolutely, and this is a lot of things that happen with scrutiny work, isn't it? That the more we investigate, the more we uncover and want to go deeper and deeper, and that's why we have to have the scope at the start to limit ourselves, to stop us going down all these different avenues. But absolutely right, if you're finding things you want to investigate further, then absolutely it's our job as Scrutiny Committee to do that. Councillor Smith, you've got a question.
Yeah, thank you. Just another comment to add, really, is that, I mean, possibly one for the next panel, but we've obviously had a report from the County Council of some pretty serious things that have happened with young people in Northamptonshire, and I think about 7 or 8 deaths, which are sort of multiple sort of elements involved in those, I'm sure, but we've got to keep those things in mind as well, in terms of, I believe some of them were linked to neglect, and that links into inability to provide, and I think these are all things we've got to bear in mind and recognise how all these things interconnect.
Absolutely, and as I say, you've got one more meeting on this subject, and then the full report will come to us in November to be ratified, and then we can take it to Cabinet and make our recommendations and follow it through. Lovely, thank you. Okay then, so item 8 is the, 7C, is the trial of buyback properties. So there was a working group met for this, the recommendation has been made and was presented to Cabinet. So Emma, have you got anything you want to add to that? Because it's kind of been presented.
Nothing specific to add to the recommendation or the presentation, just to say that I'm not sure this report details the fact that we really want ongoing scrutiny of this, and that was part of the recommendation, and that was the agreed recommendation, that we have continued ongoing scrutiny. One of the queries we raised as a group was that we've got to make sure that the commentary in that report around social housing or social rent, versus affordable rents does not change, and we maintain the social rent on the 30 properties that will be used for the homeless. and we don't slip into an affordable rent process, and that we get really detailed updates. The report was very good from the department who'd put together the report for us, but we've got to make sure that we continue to scrutinise that in great detail, and it can't slip, because if it slips, the project loses its emphasis entirely.
Absolutely, and I think this is one of the rare occasions that Councillor Hibbett or Phil Harris isn't at one of our scrutiny meetings. So they are regular attenders, and I'm sure they will come along when there is an update or when we ask them to come along to update us. Catherine, you've got a question?
I have. I'm not sure if this is the point of the meeting to ask this, or if I should have waited for any other business, but in a couple of weeks' time, probably 6 weeks' time, we're going to start to see the impact of people being thrown out of their houses, out of their homes, for all kinds of reasons. And it's something that I spoke to the cabinet member for finance, and he assured me that the council would do everything it possibly could to stave off sending in collectors, bill collectors, money collectors, and to try and keep people in their homes. Is this the time and the place to talk about evictions and what's going to happen in our town? Because I think there's going to be a very profound change.
Well, we could certainly ask for Councillor Hibbett and Phil Harris to answer that question and come along to our next meeting and answer any questions you have. Could we arrange that, Tracy? Just an update on evictions and what would happen if.
Apologies, I was on mute. Yes, Councillor Lane, I'll get in contact with Councillor Hibbett and Phil Harris. And Councillor Roberts has got a hand up as well.
Oh, yeah, Councillor Roberts.
Thank you very much. Again, I don't know whether it be any other business or, but I think that that's a really important point that Catherine's made. And I've raised questions with regards to evictions, and not just evictions from private tenants, but also evictions by NBC from those who are in temporary accommodation, because the eviction of somebody in temporary accommodation hasn't ceased during COVID. If they're in temporary accommodation, the duty or the homelessness duty has not changed, and we were still able and have, as I understand it, been removing people from properties, those who were in temporary accommodation. So I would really like us, and I wanted to ask the query around some scrutiny on that and how many we've done, and what we've done to help those people, and then what we intend to do with the process of evictions following that.
Okay. So we put all those questions to Councillor Hibbett and Phil Harris for report for our next meeting, and then we'll take it from there and see how we progress. Okay. So that kind of brings us on to item 8, which is a potential future pre-decision scrutiny, which I'm not aware of any decisions that are being made that we need to look at. And then item 9 is urgent items, which we don't have any of. There is no any other business section on our agenda. There has been, but I know what you mean. So that ties in nicely to number 8 anyway. So that's it really. Without any further questions, thank you for your attendance tonight, and look forward to seeing you at our next meeting in November. So good night.